Hello and welcome back to the pod. We got a good one here tonight, everyone. A couple big things coming in the world of CERB. Bev, what do we got going on?
Well, I think the first one we'll touch is there's a big fight going on in Canada right now. So going back when the coronavirus pandemic started, the government's solution for all the folks that were losing all their income was to start up this thing called CERB, which actually I'm forgetting what the name of it. Here it is, Canada Emergency Response Benefit. So basically, as long as you earned at least $5,000 from employment or self-employment in 2019 or the preceding 12 months of the application date, you would get I guess like a stipend of $2,000. I think it was every 2 weeks. Is that right?
Every month.
Every month. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, but long story short, basically what happened is all these people applied for it. But they didn't understand the difference between gross and net income, so before and after expenses. So they have all these examples of people, like I read one about some lady in Nova Scotia who bakes cakes or something like that and sells them like just out of her kitchen or whatever. So she applied for the benefit, obviously clearly was not didn't qualify for it, and then she has to pay back $12,000 in CERB benefits, and she's freaking out. Oh, we're not going to have Christmas and this and that. And well, it's like, what do you think if you make less than $5,000 in your cake business, and the government just gave you $12,000 for your CERB benefit? What do you expect? Like, what do you really expect? But it's interesting, yes, and I think the point of conversation will be there's this big debate over how should they have been treating that gross versus net, and why weren't they clear about what the definition would be in terms of income. And the funny thing down here is even Bill Morneau, who was the finance minister at the time, said people only have to go online to satisfy some very limited conditions, saying that they have $5,000 in revenue over the last 12 months. So right away, he right from that, he kind of, I think, misinterpreted it himself as the finance minister, interestingly enough. But as a result, a lot of people are now, I think 440,000 or something like that, are now having to pay back some of their CERB. So that's basically an intro to it. What do you guys think? Should these guys be paying their CERB back, or should they get to keep it?
Here's interesting take, because a lot of these people are clearly self-employed, and the whole point for some people having like a little side business like that is to pay next to nothing in taxes. Like you're going to go out there and you're going to write off as much as you possibly can to limit your tax liability. Clearly some of these people were over claiming than where they should be, because realistically, if you made less than $5,000, you wouldn't be in a real business. But they were clearly writing off things that they shouldn't have been writing off. Would you not just apply for, because Canada, like CERB benefits, have other benefits for businesses where you can get, at the time it was a small business loan, a $40,000 small business loan, but you only had to pay back 30 grand in 2 years. So essentially you get 10 grand for free. And all of that you need to qualify for that is your business had to be down at least 30% in sales. And you can prove that from the start of the pandemic. So of course you would take that. Like if you were a small business, of course your revenue is going to be down. Would you not take a free 10 grand? Hell yeah, you would. Why didn't these people who are self-employed take that benefit? They just took the wrong benefit, because realistically they're not a real business. They're not anything. They're just trying to make up some excuse to get CERB. Like, surprise, surprise, you don't qualify for $12,000.
Exactly.
Yeah. Another thing as well, like, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see how many people on welfare were also applying for CERB at the exact same time who didn't qualify for it. Because at the beginning of the benefit, everyone is just a blanket. Yeah, you apply, you get approved. Deal with it later on. But I mean, you're an adult. Make your own decisions. Anyways, Derek, Big D, I cut you off.
No worries, man. Yeah, so I mean, now we're dealing with it later on, right? This is that portion of it. And, the biggest thing that I was hearing, especially out of people like Jagmeet, has been very vocal over the last couple of weeks, about people not having to pay it back was about it, it being hard to understand and people not being sure, so they applied. But honestly, if you went to the website and you read the language, like, it was there clear as day. Like, you could read the list and you'd know right away if you qualified or not. And, there's been some crazy stories over this whole year that we've heard about people who, didn't get this money legitimately. Like one particular one, I can't remember what province it was. But there was an older lady who had been retired, and she had two sons who were both special needs. And so she was getting her pension, and her children were both getting, they're grown men, but they're, handicapped. Disability. So they were getting disability. And so they were getting money already and didn't qualify because they weren't working anywhere. It didn't really affect their lives at all. And so she got $12,000 that first payment because she got $2,000 for each of them, plus they double paid a bunch of people by accident that first month, right? So you got people like that who have $12,000 of our money, the taxpayers' money, right? And so now we're just supposed to say, because they didn't understand, they get to keep it. Like, that's insane to me. And for a fact, and I know for a fact because I remember hearing people talk about it, there was tons of people who applied for this knowingly that they weren't actually eligible for it, just because they were gambling on the fact that this was going to happen right here, that the government was going to lay over and say, no, don't worry about it. We're just going to eat the cost, and it's too much paperwork.
Yeah, and that's probably what I was thinking of when I'm thinking of people on welfare. Like, that exact situation. You're already living 100% off government support, like the welfare state. And you think you're entitled to more? Like, no, you don't get to make more money. Like, right now, like, we just saw that Canada's national debt surpassed $1 trillion. So that's $30,000 every man, woman, and child in Canada. Like, that's insane. That is insane. And the fact that each of us now owe $30,000 plus whatever insane amount of interest is going to be by the time it's paid off. I'm not paying $30,000 out of my pocket because I'm going to work for you because you're retired. Like, no, like, you have to pay it back. You shouldn't have spent that money. You shouldn't have gone above and beyond your means. Like, this is emergency money to get you by when you need it in an emergency because you lost your job. It clear as day. You're a server or something like that, and the government shuts down your restaurant. Hey, we're going to give you this instead of EI. They were pushing everyone away from EI to this emergency response benefit because it's coming out of a different budget. Doesn't make any sense to me why people are like, it's a pandemic, so I just get more free money. No, you're already getting free government money. Like, stop. Like, you can't play that. You can't be that ignorant. Like, no one is that ignorant. Like, that's wrong. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
Well, now after all this, the new monetary theory or I think it's new monetary theory is all coming out now, where they're saying, it doesn't matter if you rack up huge debts and if you have all this, these massive deficits, and it doesn't matter if everybody owes $30,000. You just keep creating money, and inflation isn't an issue anymore. It's like the biggest. It doesn't make any sense.
Oh my God. Well, that's probably why Morgenthau isn't the finance minister anymore. Like, who resigns as finance minister? Like, there had to have been something going on in the background there where the powers that be up here in Canada, Mr. whoever, Trudeau, or whoever's actually holding the power at B, like, wanted to write more checks. And he probably is like, I'm not going to be going down in history as the finance minister that destroyed and bankrupted a country. I'm not going to do it. Now they got someone else like, sign it up. Let's get CERB rolling again.
It's like, how much do I get paid a year? Hell yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's wild.
And, I even know from people I've talked to that some of the businesses that got back up and running and, started to get the payroll subsidy, they were able to get that and back pay employees. And then those employees who had received CERB in the first place, once they were back paid, were instructed to send their CERB money back so that they wouldn't be owing taxes on money that they'd been back paid for that period. And then you're clear. You don't have to deal with it at all. But then, people in those positions, of course, also thought they could double dip and held on to their money now. And then, of course, they're going to be asked for it back in April or whatever. And they're going to be wondering why they're going to be asked for whatever it is, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, $12,000 that they clearly probably don't have here anymore. Right. So it's crazy. It's once again, it's adults walking around and blaming the world for their problems. Like, you should have, some sort of a plan here, people. Like, I know the pandemic is crazy. It was unprecedented. It was never something that we thought was going to happen, but like, there's tons of things that happen to people every day that they don't think is going to happen. And you should always, at least in the back of your mind, have that as a possibility. And that's the thing. Like, people were just caught on their, flat feet, and they just want to blame the world for it. Right.
Like, I've been on employment insurance in my life, and it was a horrible, horrible feeling. But I mean, like, I got fired from a job out of the blue, or not fired, like let go from a job out of the blue. Like, company shut down, like, that's it. Now you have no income. Like, it's a scary, scary feeling. And while you're on EI, like employment insurance up here, like, the whole thing is like, the contract is, we will give you money while you're looking for a job. That entire time I was looking for a job. I'm not just sitting there and going to be like, oh, how many weeks of benefit am I entitled to? I'm just going to milk it the whole time. Absolutely not. I'm sitting there doing what you're legally supposed to do and find a job. Like, that's the whole point. It's an insurance policy to get you by. And employment insurance isn't that much money. Like, it's the same amount as CERB. It's $1,000 every 2 weeks, so $2,000 a month. Realistically, if you're an adult with a house and like cars and family and all that stuff, like, could you survive off $2,000 a month? Like, no, you can't survive off that. You can't have all the things. Yeah, that's pre-tax. Like, you can't survive off that money. Like, what the hell? Like, I'm sure. I'm sure you could survive off of it for a little bit, but I mean, yeah, exactly. Like, you're not really living. Like, that's subsistence. Like, the hierarchy of needs, like, you got some shelter probably and some food, like, but you're not really living. Like, that's basic human needs. And that's what I think people misinterpreted, like, I don't know, just want to think like, hey, this is a once in a lifetime freebie. Same thing with maybe people who ride EI habitually, like every year ride EI, like, oh, the government's just going to give you money. Like, it's not the government. The government doesn't make money. Well, I guess they kind of do now, but it's the taxpayers and other people who pay for that. Like, you're just leeching off other people. You can't. Yeah, and that's just that leeching.
Most people, though, I think a lot of people just don't care. Like, not everybody's got that, take care of yourself kind of attitude.
It's a shitty attitude to have. Like givers and takers, and there are way more takers in the world in all sense. Like, not just monetarily. Like, just like they suck the life out of you. And I think people are way too complacent with being takers than by being givers. I don't know. Anyways, if you hadn't noticed, I had a weird interaction the other day with someone who was sucking the life out of me.
Fair enough. Well, I guess on that note, let's just jump over. And so I guess with all the coronavirus cases starting to ramp up, the Ontario government's decided to implement a full lockdown right across the province. So I figure we could take a bit of time and chat about what that lockdown actually means, because last time it was pretty, like, everything was shut down. Schools were shut down, daycares, pretty much all stores except for big box stores, of course. Well, essential big box stores like grocers and discount, like Costco, stuff like that. Best Buys and all that were shut down. But this time it's looking like it's a little bit different. So I just flagged a couple interesting ones. You can still have no indoor gatherings, of course, inside your house. Outdoor gatherings limited to 10 people. They're actually shutting down the schools this time, but elementary school will return in person on the 11th. So I think that's maybe, a week later than they were scheduled to. Mm-hmm. Secondary students are January 25th, so it's 2 weeks or whatever. Other than that, I mean, it seems like most things are still open. All the stuff you would expect, like a zoo and aquarium or something like that, a casino. But it seems like a lot of stuff is still open. And actually, when you actually go through the list, I mean, there's restrictions on things, like you have to have curbside pickup and stuff like that. But it doesn't seem nearly as bad as it was last time. So what do you guys think? Is this going to be as serious as before?
So the biggest thing, and for our YouTube viewers, you can see some of the lists that we're looking at here, is just breezing through. It really seems that any business that's really driven by cash. So somewhere where you wouldn't normally pay like debit or credit or whatever, like realistically, bars, strip clubs, nail salons, hairstylists, like anywhere where you're going to go and pay cash, shut down. Hard, no, you're not going there. You're shutting it down. Everywhere else, yeah, you're open, but make sure you got a plan for it. Like it's the weirdest thing. Like it's a air quotes lockdown, but is it really a lockdown? Like everyone's still going to work because I think they realize you can't, and like I guess Trump said it best, like the solution can't be worse than the problem, or the solution can't be worse than the disease. So like a full lockdown, everyone stay in their house for a month or whatever, and then we'll get rid of this disease. Like, yeah, sure, that would work, but then people are going to starve, people are going to kill themselves, people are going to like get beat up by their spouses, like men and women or whatever are going to beat the crap out of each other. Like, I mean, that's not a realistic thing. So they know that at least this time, that the economy has to go, and it looks like they're focusing on the economy that pays taxes more than the economy that, you know, makes less than $5,000 net a year and claims benefits.
Yeah, cake businesses are going to get hit hard for sure. Yeah, I think that, you know, there's probably lessons they've learned at this point. You know, it's been like, I can't believe we're coming up on, you know, it'll be a year in like 3 months from now, right? Like of this fucking crazy world. But I think they kind of know, you know, every time they make some of these measures a little bit more about what the effects are because they have a little bit more data. And I think that definitely informs that decision. It's interesting. They are doing weddings and funerals. It's up on the screen right now. Initially, that was something they had shut down as well, which was crazy.
Wow, that's big, yeah.
People weren't allowed to have a funeral. You know, that was awful. And I had a family member pass away this year, and you know, when things were a little bit more open, and it was still just an awful experience. So, just wild to think that things like that are, you know, weren't even possible in like March, April, and at least they're allowing people to do that now, which is good. But yeah, you know, we're starting to hear a lot more. I don't know if there's an article or anything. I should have found one earlier, but they were talking about, you know, now they're starting to get a lot of data rolling in about some of the mental health effects and addiction and things like that, and the deaths that relate to that this year too. So, you know, I think they're doing their best to try and keep people working, keep people, you know, living the most amount of normal they can and under these limitations, right? So I think that, you know, Ford is getting just reamed from both ends right now, and you know, yeah. I think he did a good thing in he waited to announce everything on Monday, knowing full well that if he announced it last Friday, that there would have been a huge rush into all the stores and panic shopping and just crazy shit all weekend, and that's not going to help things, especially if you're trying to limit the amount of people everywhere. So that was a smart move. And then the other move he made that was smart was doing this starting on Boxing Day, knowing full well that people are going to break these rules and at least probably go and see their parents or whatever. Like there's probably going to be lots of dinners of 3 and 4 people, and you know, like they can say whatever they want with their restrictions, but I'm sure that that's going to happen for a lot of people. And he knows that, and I'm sure he's going to do it too. So it was interesting that he picked Boxing Day, because originally, I guess the rumor was the discussions were about the 24th. But, you know, I think that you can see that he is, you know, he obviously can't come out and say it, but I think he's trying to be as human about it as he can. He understands the importance, but also he's got to make sure that he's protecting people's health in the eyes of all the people who have the data for that, and they're telling him this. And you know, he's in a shit spot. You know, all these guys are not. They've never really dealt with something like this, and they're doing their best. So I'm just gonna give a shout out to Doug Ford, and he's holding it down, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do gotta say
he's doing pretty well overall. Like, and just going through this list again, I think you guys are on the right track, where it's, you know, they're keeping people working, keeping business flowing, basically, and just I think it's more of just a more intense, you know, red zone type thing. And for anyone outside of Ontario, red zone is like the highest level of restriction, I guess, for businesses and I guess people in general as they're going around. So I think it's just trying to drive home, like, we need to keep people separated, you know, don't have these big events, don't have these big super spreader events, and, you know, just be a bit smarter about things. Because overall, I mean, just aside from, you know, gyms closing and things like that, I don't expect to see much of a change from my typical, you know, activities.
Yeah, and I really do think Ford made a good call, and by moving or whatever, maybe he didn't move it, maybe it was always going to be on Boxing Day. So Boxing Day is the 26th for anyone listening in the States. It's the day after Christmas where everyone just goes out and goes shopping for deals. Yeah, like it's just it's just human nature. Like if you start breaking the rules on something and nothing happens right away, then you'll continue to break those rules. So if he put the lockdown into effect on Christmas Eve, chances are a huge chunk of your population is going to break the rules on Christmas and go see family members that they aren't supposed to, and gather for a dinner of like go see your parents or your grandparents or something like that on Christmas because it's Christmas. And then they're going to realize that nothing actually bad happened to them, like monetarily. So they're just going to keep doing it. And so by switching it to Boxing Day, a day where you just go out and you go get deals and you just switch it to shopping online, I think it'll make people more prone to actually follow the rules. Be like, wow, it's actually not that bad. Wow, I could just order this off Amazon and it comes to my house the next day, or I can order it through Canada Post and it'll come in 4 weeks from now. But it'll get there eventually.
Maybe.
Well, Canada Post is always a crapshoot. And that's. I always think from the first lockdown, the funniest thing that came out of it is that. The Canadian government, in order to give PPE all across to the province to all the people that need it, they didn't use Canada Post. Canada Post is the government-run postal service here in Canada. No, they didn't do it to them or Purelator, which is their express branch, but still like a branch of Canada Post. No, they took Amazon's supply chain into effect and actually contracted out to Amazon. So we got government employees here that are so shitty at their jobs that we got to go to private industry to actually make it happen. It's just it just goes to speak on how broken some of these agencies actually are.
Yeah, and you look at relating to that too with like vaccine distribution, right? Like it's all like UPS and FedEx and stuff that's doing it. It's not Canada Post. Like it's not. It's like yeah, my dad's an electrician. I gotta go look in the phone book for somebody.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like at least I know they were getting the Canadian military to distribute the vaccines up here. I don't know if they still are. I know there were talks of that, but I feel like the military is a branch of the government that operates not like government agencies. Like it operates like a hierarchy of commands. Like it's very goal driven, structured, but it's just like you have a clear goal in mind and your entire purpose is to accomplish whatever that mission is, where a government employee's mission is to reach retirement and collect that sweet pension, baby.
Yeah, and maybe get some CERB on the side too. Why not, right? You know nobody's coming for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my small consulting business didn't make enough money this year.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, like what can actually happen. But yeah, anything else, Bev, that you noticed on the list here, besides like funerals and weddings? Like I remember was supposed to go attend a funeral and I couldn't because they had a maximum of 10 people, including the priest, the people, like the funeral people, and they're like, oh, you can just go wait in the car. Nope, that's against the rules too. So I couldn't be even in the parking lot of the funeral. I just had to just sit at home and wait and then talk to everyone on a group call. Very, very strange situation. At least this time they're allowing those funerals to actually happen.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that was interesting is they're allowing hotels, cottages, resorts, and motels to stay open, so they're not killing Airbnb.
Well, because
that was kind of sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm sure like they got a lot of flack from that because Airbnb is run by people who have enough money to own second and third homes, but
and
not really
leveraged
enough
people. Primarily.
Yeah, super over. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to say, I can't afford to own it. No, can afford to get the loan for it. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of those people are a lot of the same people making donations to the Conservative Party. We were making a lot of phone calls like, you are going to let Airbnb be a thing, or our VRBO or whatever. Because I need to pay my mortgage on this giant cottage that I have that I don't actually need.
Yeah, I guess the only other one was the outdoor recreational facilities, but it goes back to that point where, you got to keep people sane and get them out there doing something. So it's kind of nice, ice rink, shooting
Play a little
ranges,
winter
everything's
baseball.
Well,
Yeah, there you go.
Well, Bev, can you pull up that? It was based out of Calgary, where that
Oh, yeah.
teenager was outside. And again, this is what I saw on my 30 seconds of Instagram news. So hopefully we can pull up the real article here.
There it is.
What do we got? Yeah, police arrest 21-year-old skating on an outdoor rink in Calgary. Yes, very, very dangerous. But Dev, you got the article pulled up there. Give us a little synopsis, and for people following us on YouTube, you can follow along too.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at it. So I guess there are about 40 people using this outdoor rink, which was breaking the gathering restrictions for the province. And I guess this kid was just getting smart with them. What is it? What's the health regulation? And I guess they were trying to pull him off or arrest him or detain him or something, and then they started grabbing at him. I'm sure he started fighting with them, and then he ends up getting pinned on the ground and arrested.
Okay, that's a different situation than was presented from the one that I read. He's like, he's skating alone on this ice rink, minding his own business. Okay, never mind.
39 other people.
Yeah, you're playing hockey with 39 other people or skating around with 39 other people. Yeah, the cops come to break up that event. Just go home, man. Like, don't be a dick. Like, stupid people win stupid prizes. And I'm sure that guy wasn't really minding his own business. I'm sure he...
They're playing hockey, right? They're playing shinny. It was a bunch of guys. They had jerseys on and sticks. And I saw the full video.
Oh, my God. Okay, well, then, yeah.
I mean... You're better off just to listen to the police. That's probably the best advice I could really give you in life is if police, a woman or man is saying something to you, you should probably listen to what they're saying. He pretty much resists arrest the whole time, which is crazy. And honestly, if this was a different country and maybe he was a different color or something too, this might have been a lot worse of a situation. Because he was doing some crazy shit. Like, he was pulling away from them. He was kind of pushing back on them. Like, honestly, like, really, really risking it, in my opinion. But like, he should have just said, yeah, sorry, we fucked up and fucked off or got your ticket or whatever. But he's lucky he is where he is and he is who he is, because like I said, a couple key things different in a situation like this, and this would be a way bigger story for a much worse reason.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry I even brought this up, because this guy's a fucking idiot. Like, just go home, man. Like, you wouldn't have got a ticket, you wouldn't have got arrested, you wouldn't have got anything if you just were, hey, all right, guys. All right, game's over. It's time to go home. It's COVID time. I know it sucks. All right, get out of here. And like, I'm sure that's what the cops want to do, because they're not coming in here power tripping. They didn't drive their SUVs on the ice or anything like that. They just walked over to him. And then this guy's being a prick about it. Like, just go home. Like, I have the same attitude as you do, Big D. Like, whenever a cop tells you to do something, just do it. Like, let's say you were going to get a ticket, just take the ticket. You want to go fight it? Go fight it with someone who can actually do it. Go fight it in court. Don't risk the situation. Like, I wouldn't want to be a cop. Like, cop, firefighter, or paramedic. Cop is the worst one out of all of it, because people hate police in general. Like, you only call a cop on your worst day. It's rather something, you are the victim of something, or you are doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. Like, those are the only two interactions that most people have with police officers. And like, they just get shit ends of the stick. Like, if you are walking around and you see a person that you don't want to deal with, you call the police and the police come and deal with it. And that's their job every day for 25 years until they get to check out. Like, that would be horrible. I guess the only worse job than that would be a prison guard, because you're just locked in with those people 24/7. Like, it'd be even worse. But man, like, yeah, cops, I don't envy what they do at all.
Definitely not. It'd be a tough job.
Yeah. Oh man, what else would we got here? Let's stop talking about
I think the last interesting one to touch on today is this new super coronavirus strain that's come out in the UK. I don't know what to call it. I guess it's
it's Corona 21, baby.
There you go.
COVID-21, yeah, part of the plan. Yeah, just a quick note on this too is if you look at the different news outlets in the different countries and that too, the reporting on this is all over the place. It's great. Like the word mutation is what people just love to hang on right now, and you know the reality is it is a mutation of the virus. Viruses mutate all the time. I was watching a video with a doctor who was saying that, you know, an average flu virus mutates every couple days generally, like the yearly flu. So it's a normal thing. It's happened multiple times over the course of this year of the pandemic. We've actually dealt with like hundreds of mutations of the coronavirus, and this is just another one. It's proving to be more prevalent in the UK and also more easily contracted, it seems. But they're pretty much expecting, you know, that it's not really going to make a huge difference into like what we're doing as far as vaccines and things like that too. So it's interesting that, you know, obviously the sensationalism of media is there again. They know they're going to get the clicks by scaring the fuck out of everybody. But if you can pretty much go and look at anyone who actually knows what they're talking about, saying, you know, the same thing, that it is proving to be a little bit more easy to contract, and that's the concern, is just more people getting sick faster. But it's not some super mutant virus that's really anything different. It's still at its core is the COVID-19 virus. So just interesting to see how the coverage affects people, and then people just kind of read a highlighted, you know, headline and just kind of run with it, right?
Yeah. The other thing as well,
it's interesting here. It says that highly likely that the immune response by Pfizer's vaccine can also deal with the new virus variants. So, yeah, I think exactly what you said, Big D. It's kind of sensationalized a bit.
Yeah, like you got to remember the whole point of a virus, like, is to multiply and spread. If a virus is extremely deadly, it's not going to do what its DNA tells it to do. It's not going to be able to spread anywhere because it just kills all its hosts. That's why, like it was really good that like Ebola, whatever it was, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever that huge thing was, like they did a really good job containing it because it is spread very easily, but it also didn't spread super fast because it just kills everyone that it comes in contact with. And to pick it up again, you got to come in contact with the person who's dying right next to you. So it's killing the caregivers too. Like, it's not, like, I hate the word of it, it's not a good virus. Like, a good virus is H1N1 or whatever, the common flu. Like, I don't know if that's the common flu, but the one that people get the flu shot for normally, like, that's a good virus because it doesn't go away. It comes every single year and it just keeps on coming back because it doesn't kill you, but it definitely gets you sick. And like, that's probably, well, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, and maybe I'm way off base here, but that's probably what's going to happen to COVID. Like, it's just going to keep on mutating until it's never going to go away, really. But it's just going to stop being as deadly. I would assume that this is what it's going to look like 5 years from now. Like, timestamp this, bam, this episode 5 years from now when we have a pod, they're like, oh, you're fucked, bud. I killed half the people out there. But I mean, like, who knows? Like, who knows? And I think that countries right now that are banning travel from the UK are doing it more to appease the masses than, like you're saying, like, if the Pfizer vaccine is effective against it, then they're doing it to stop. They're not doing it as much to stop the spread, just to stop the sensationalism from the media and stop the sensationalism from their constituents, like here in Canada. Like, if we're reading this, like, there's a super spreading virus or whatever, and we're still letting people come in from that country, screw it. Like, you'd be up in arms, and I'm sure that's why they shut it down right now, and I'm sure that's why the Marriott at Heathrow is at 100% capacity, just jacking up their rates, loving life.
Exactly. Well, it's funny with all this, with all the travel bans. I know with how they treat essential travel. It's like basically any remotely business related travel seems to be acceptable. Like, I know even you know, I had a conversation with someone today who traveled to London actually on a sales meeting, and it was all okay. Yeah, oh yeah, you're essential. Yeah, no problem. Even though this guy's in the foreign exchange industry is really not essential in any respect. His meeting certainly was not essential, but they've just kind of blanketed it just to kind of keep things moving and try and keep the business side, kind of appeased and keep deals happening and all that. But that's where all those so much of that transmission is coming from, because you hope everybody does their 14-day isolation and quarantine, but how many people really do? I mean, I bet a lot don't.
Well, that's one thing that Ford was saying. He was talking about how the rules here in Canada for people returning home are pretty much a joke. Like, they're like, yeah, go home and quarantine for 14 days. And they'll call you once a day to make sure you're there. But, I mean, who can just answer the phone and say, like, yeah, I'm at home? Like, they're not tracking you. There are no checkpoints. There's none of that stuff. Like, it's just, you promise to go right to your hotel and not move anywhere for 14 days. I promise. And that's it. It's over. So, yeah, of course, people aren't doing that.
You compare that to places like, this week we saw that New Zealand basically opened up to regular life, no masks or anything like that. And so, like, New Zealand and Australia being, islands and having to protect themselves all the time, their 14-day quarantine is people do spot checks and show up to your house and question you. So, like, they're a lot more serious. Yeah, like that's the level that in those areas where they know they're fucked if something like that gets way out of control on an island. That's kind of what they're doing, and that's why, like I said, New Zealand's already back to actual normal, right? So,
yeah. Like, I heard a story, and who knows if it's true or not, from like the beginning of quarantine, but they tracked like some cases down to a lid of a garbage can. Like, it was the most crazy thing, and they just dumped all their resources at stopping the spread of this virus. And I love the idea of that. Like, you got the money, fuck giving it to the people on welfare already collecting money. Give it to the people who are gonna fucking stop it and trace it and actually do something about it. Don't just hand out a bunch of money and shut everything down. Like, fucking stop it. Do something. But, I mean, hindsight 2020, I guess, kind of. Like, we're still in the middle of it, and they're still making changes, but at least Canada is trying to do the right thing and ask for the money back. Like, fucking NDP up here asking for debt forgiveness for everyone who collected CERB. Like, that's fucking bullshit. Like, I worked the whole time.
There's a reason why the NDP lost so many seats.
Yeah, like, I mean, who the fuck is going to pay? Like, one of the biggest jokes up here is back in the 90s, the NDP got into power in the provincial level. Fucked everything up royally, spent way too much money. So they had something called Ray Days. So that was the last name of the premier at the time. And so public service workers were forced to come into work and not get paid for that day because they didn't have enough money to pay for their firefighters, for their teachers, or for the policemen. So they're still expected to go into work, but not actually get paid. And those are the Ray Days. You gotta do it for Ray, because Ray spent way too much money giving out fucking government handouts left, right, and center.
Goof to me, bud.
Guy's still in politics. Fucking now he's a liberal now. He was fucking the interim leader. Like, what a.
So he's just going down a whole nother fucking rabbit hole of retardation there. The liberals, nice. Yeah, like, I think what this all pretty much boils down to, and what I was seeing, with some of the stuff I've been reading and watching, is that, UK, Canada, US, a lot of these big countries that are, now in this vaccine, race to get the vaccine out to people as quickly as possible. It's approved, and we got things moving. We're at a position now where by March, April, we'll be at pretty good vaccination levels to start really, moving in the right direction of opening things up. So it's like we're right at the finish line now, and they just don't want to stumble. And that's what all this pretty much amounts to, whether it's, limiting travel or, how are we going to fund people? Like, just give them the money. Everything we talked about today, it all equates down to, the lockdown, is that, like, we're right there now, right? Like, we're months away from really, making some significant progress after just a hellacious year of spending and just bullshit. And everyone's just trying to hold this fucking thing together and make sure the wheels don't come flying off before we cross that finish line. And that's all we're really at. That's where we are. We're 3-4 months away from some significant change in our daily lives in a positive way for once, with getting this vaccination levels at an acceptable level now, where we're starting to see herd immunity actually, acquired herd immunity through vaccination actually be impactful, right? So it's like, fuck, like just hold it together, boys. Like 90 days, 120 days, like we're so close.
Well, the funny thing about it is like everybody knew it was going to be worse this year than last year. Like levels were going to be higher. All this stuff was going to be higher. It's not a surprise, but people are acting like, oh my God, they're going into another lockdown. Like, well, of course they would. They can't come out and tell you that that's what they're going to do because you're going to freak out about it. But of course it's going to be worse the second time. All the models said it was going to be worse the second year, and then it's going to pretty good the third, like it's going to be like way lower the third year ish sort of thing, where you don't actually need it, where you're just spot checking it. Like it's not a surprise. And the fact that people are treating it like a surprise, like it's that weird mentality, like that head in the sand mentality. Like, no, everything's going to be fine. Like it's all going to be back to normal in a couple of weeks. Like, no, we all knew it's going to probably realistically be gone by this summer. Like no one's going to be talking about COVID anymore. Like it's done. Come July.
And spoiler alert for those people, if they're head in the sand, this is not going to be only 28 days for Ontario. That we will definitely be going longer than 28 days. So.
100%. Like there's not a chance.
For sure.
Not a chance. I mean, hey, well, let's just be realistic. Oh, yeah, elementary school kids are going to go back to school in 2 or 3 weeks on January 11th. Yeah, okay, sure they are. Like, there's no way that's going to happen. Not a chance. Oh, wow. I think this is a first. This is actually one of the casts where we stayed on timeline. Well, thanks for joining us this week, and hopefully you join us for the next one next week. Yeah,